Welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my records and talk about why I love them. For several months now, we've been going through this track-by-track analysis of Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. You see, I briefly forgot the name of the album, but it came back. And I've had a marvelous time, but I think that it might be time to put this album to bed, at least for now. There are other albums that are demanding of our attention, and there are only so many Fridays in a lifetime, so it's time. However, I thought I'd put the series on hiatus with a bang. And what better song to feature at this critical juncture than the most Fleetwood Mac song of all? Now, in previous episodes, we have covered extensively the hot mess interpersonal dramas behind the making of this album. But let's do a quick recap. This is Fleetwood Mac. We have John McVie, Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks, Mick Fleetwood, and Christine McVie. Note that they have the same surname. This is an important detail because they're in the process of getting divorced. He's a bit of a drunk, with all due respect to drunks, and she is currently having an affair, at this point in time, is having an affair with their lighting technician. He's getting divorced from his wife because, allegedly, he can't stop having affairs on the road, and these two, who are not married but have been together for years, are also experiencing an acrimonious split. Also, briefly, these two were doing the deed with each other. Messy. Messy, messy, messy. Good. That's covered. We're on the same page. Now, I said up top that it was the most Fleetwood Mac song, and the reason that I say that is that it's the only track by Fleetwood Mac that rhymes to be credited to every member of the band. And that is because it's a real sort of cut and paste patchwork of the song. And I mean that somewhat literally because they were often taking to the tape with a razor and splicing things together. And on that note, today we're going to map its trajectory, its hero's journey to greatness, and we're going to break down what makes it one of the most compelling songs that I have ever heard. Okay, we're going to entitle this section of the episode, Ancestors of the Chain. Catchy. The song is comprised primarily of 3 songs, and the first is Lindsey's contribution. Pre-Fleetwood Mac, well, actually it was concurrently with Fleetwood Mac. Pre-Buckingham Nicks era Fleetwood Mac, that confuses things, but bear with me. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were performing together as a duo, and had been for years. They put out a pretty solid album, somewhere around 1973, I believe. Editor Nancy will correct me if I'm wrong. It was this album that attracted the attention of Mick Fleetwood, this tall lad here, and ultimately earned them a spot in Fleetwood Mac. The reason I'm bringing up this album is that there is a track on that album called Lola My Love. And it opens like this. Sound familiar? Okay, we're off to the races. We have an intro, we have a riff, we have a starting point. Next is Stevie's ingredient. It is an early demo, but it's mostly plotting and generally uninspiring. Stepped into the canyons of my loneliness. However, if we muddle through it, we will arrive at the chorus. And if you don't familiar. You will never love me again. Chords are a little plain. They resolve a little predictably. You will never break a chain. But the lyrics aren't too bad. We'll move on. The third song is called Keep Me There. It began as a jam, and later on, Christine McVie added some lyrics and a melody to it. If you listen to the jam iteration of this track, you can hear that it has the feel of the Chain, but it's not quite there yet. And when you listen to the version with lyrics and a melody, the lyrics are a little bit plain, and the melody is forgettable. And forgettable is the opposite of what you want in a melody. You want a melody to sneak in your ear grab a hold of it and never leave.
Trying to be a little bit strong.
Still, Christine McVie has added to the pot. But the secret sauce, the magic ingredient, was brought by Messrs. Fleetwood and Mac, and it was concocted during the jam phase of this song. That's just hot, really. But we're not quite ready for that level of sexiness yet. Watch this space. So if you take Lindsay's riff and Stevie's lyrics, and Christine's chords, and John and Mick's caboose, what do you end up with? Well, it's hardly a mystery because I announced it at the top, but let's get into the nitty-gritty. Shall we? Yes, we shall. When I was 14 years old, I had this little Radio Shack tape player that I would take everywhere with me in case I heard something that was interesting or came up with an idea for a melody or lyrics or something, and I didn't want to lose it. So I had this, it was called pocket size, but it really wouldn't fit in any respectable pocket. It was a bit chunky. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Radio Shack. So I find a cassette tape of this album, and I put it on. I'm really enjoying it. It's a solid album, as we all know. Then this song comes on, and I feel like I've learned to see a new color. It was mind-expanding. I'm a little bit more musically literate now, so I can explain why that was. Or at least I can try and explain why that was, and you can be the judge. We'll start by talking about Lindsay and Christine and what they're bringing musically to the track. At this stage in the mini-series, we're now familiar with Lindsay's tendency to layer his guitar tracks, and this song is no exception. Right from the top, you can hear him doing that. It's got acoustic qualities, it's got some, it's like gravelly electric qualities, and it's got that slide, which you can hear really clearly when they all come together right before the top of the verse. It's typical of Lindsay because it's not flashy, but it would be very difficult to emulate that feel that he gets, that subtlety of touch. It's a very unique style that he has. The way that he performs this introduction almost creates this like visual landscape, and it feels dusty and desolate. Gels nicely with the lyrical content of this song. Very clever, sir. Let's have a listen to the organ, which really sort of comes into its own at the chorus. Here. It's not loud in the mix, it has a little melody of its own, but generally it's there to fully occupy that harmonic stratum in the song. And that allows the bass and the drums to continue in that very sparse, very empty vein that the guitar has introduced in the verses and the introduction. Good. It is not the drum and the bass's time to shine. Yet. I enjoy how the chords at the end phrases of the chorus go unresolved. This bit here. Let's get the piano correspondent to explain what I mean. Piano correspondent! Tell us your thoughts.
Hello, hello. Quite simply, it means that the chords at the chorus never return to that home chord for the key. So it sounds like this. You don't love me now, you never love me again. I can still hear you saying you won't never break the chain. And we stay on this chord until we get to the beginning of the chorus again. You and I. We don't return to that home chord until it's going back into the verse again. Never break the chain. Now if they were to resolve it, it would sound something a little more like this. You don't love me now, you never love me again. I can still hear you saying you won't never break the chain. And if you don't love me now, you never love me again. I can still hear you saying you won't never break the chain. I don't know about you, but I feel like it sounds better when it's left as a mystery. It's implied, we know where it should be going, but they choose not to take it there. Very nice. Back to you.
I really enjoy how the verse is this very bluesy major, and the chorus is this much darker minor. It becomes much more serious. And one of my favorite moments in the song, I guess strictly I'm not speaking solely about the guitar and organ yet, but Structure be damned. I like this bit. It's this like, shh. We're about to sing again. Listen closely. We're going to spin a tale, a sad, sad tale of loss and loneliness. Okay, speaking of singing, I couldn't make the claim that this is the most Fleetwood Mac song of all time without talking about the vocals and specifically the vocal harmony. I will never make the claim. In the verse, we get the quintessential blend. It is magical in that you can hear glimpses of the individuals singing, especially when they sing the word damn. Damn your love, damn your life. And at the same time, it sounds like this entirely different creature in combination. Damn the dark, damn the light. Damn, that's, damn, ferocious. Ferocious. Like, the reason that their individual voices pop out at those moments, I think, is just the sheer ferocity with which they are singing that line. They're feeling it, that it's so emotionally evocative. They are communicating like stages of loss. You know, there's anger and there's depression and there is acceptance that there's nothing left to lose. It's just good singing. It's such a good vocal blend too. You know, like, I was going to say anybody can sing in harmony. That's not true. Plenty of people can't sing in harmony. But many can, and it doesn't always sound as good as this. This is just serendipity. It is just dumb luck that those three voices sound that good when they're blended. The vocal arrangement at the chorus is very special to me because it could have just mirrored what was happening in the verse. But I feel like, one, that would be dull, and two, that would be too much of a good thing. Instead, they've arranged it completely differently. We open with Lindsay.
And if you don't love me now,
He's joined by Stevie.
you'll never love me again.
And then the second time around, Christine contributes this, like, ghostly howling. She's, like, mourning the death of a relationship. Let's listen to that time.
I can still hear you say you would never break.
So good! This is such a good song. Before we get to the really important part, not to spoil anything, I would just like to point out that there's a tambourine that offers this magical high-frequency sparkle at the chorus. I don't think there's one at the verse, but at the chorus it comes in.
You don't love me now, you'll never.
The verse and the chorus are out of the way, and the mood in the song shifts. The guitar's playing these tense little triplets. The cymbals are all swishy and you know the sound that cymbals make. And Mick Fleetwood has introduced this rat-a-tat snares, this really ominous, increasing in intensity, rat-a-tat, tat-tat-tat-tat. I don't need to sing the drums, let's listen to it. It's all making way for something big. And that something big is bass! To quote Meghan Trainor, this track is bringing booty back. I think that's the first time in my entire life that I have used that word. Back. Now, I would normally get the bass correspondent in here to play iconic bass riffs, but regrettably, she's on annual leave this week, and I'm only kidding! Bass correspondent, you are up! This song is pretty righteous without the outro, but that second half of the song makes it dynamite. I want to spend the rest of this breakdown explaining why that is. So, first off, the drop down and build up into the final peak of the song is extremely effective. They drop it down to very little, and they're syncopating. The offbeats are falling in between the downbeats. These are the downbeats, okay? And the stabs come in between the downbeats. Ba, ba, dee doo doo dee doo, ba, ba. Propels the song along. But yeah, as we covered, it's tense. We don't know what's coming. And then that gradual build-up starts with the snare. The snare gets louder and louder. And then Lindsey Buckingham fades in his guitar solo. And as he opens up, so does the rest of the song. It is now a double time frenzy. Here it comes. Oh, little dizzy now. Little dizzy. Getting too old for that. We'll wake up with a sore neck tomorrow. And that dainty little sparkle that we had during the choruses, that's now a wild beast of a thing. That's hard to keep up. Good thing I have huge guns! I'm not fishing for compliments, you know. Also, I love that Lindsey Buckingham's solo is comprised almost entirely of single notes. You'd think it would be really boring, but he is a really solid player. This is typical Lindsey. He doesn't do flashy and fancy. He doesn't do fast, but his voice is clear in his playing. There's something about the way that he voices these notes, the way that he sounds and expresses these notes, with a combination of volume and striking intensity and vibrato that makes it feel like something more than just ding, 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 ding. That's all the same note. If you were playing all of those notes with exactly the same voice and intensity, you get it. I learned this solo in one of my DIY hurdy-gurdies. Now I am fishing for compliments. And then of course we've got that fantastic call and response. The three of them are the call, and just Lindsey is the response. This is clearly an incredible song, but it's also sort of a microcosm for the entirety of the album, because it's a clear demonstration of what they were capable of when they were able to put aside the melodrama. Actually, I think Ringo said a similar thing in last week's episode about the breakup of the Beatles.
It doesn't matter what we're going through, you know, on the bullshit level. When it gets to the music, we all put in 1,000%.
Will it, Beatles? Yes, it will. Anyway, I'm not the only one who thinks that this is a great song, because it's been covered by a plethora of artists. That always sounds like a rude word, but it's not. Some people pronounce it plethora, and that sounds even filthier, but it's not. That last one was my band. Just thought I'd sneak it in there. It's also all over television and cinema.
Never left.
End or put on hiatus this series without some sense of closure for who won the breakup. And despite my adherence to the scientific rigor of the experiment and the data points, alas, the personal growth score has clearly put Stevie at a disadvantage, because her average for this song is 6.3 recurring. I am forced to conclude that it's kind of a dead heat. Stevie is lyrically strong, but musically a little underdeveloped. Lindsey, on the other hand, is this musical whiz kid who writes really immature lyrics. Musically and in their personal lives, they were inextricably linked. Not just in 77, but into the future. Maybe into multiple futures, maybe into multiple lifetimes. And I think that linking was a real win for both of them musically. and probably in a lot of ways a loss for them personally. Like, imagine being glued to your ex and dependent on them to make good music. Yeah, they each had a solo career, and Stevie's was, at least on paper, more successful than Lindsay's, although I think Lindsay made more adventurous and more groundbreaking music. Maybe not groundbreaking, but imaginative music than Stevie did. Where did I start that sentence? Oh, but in both cases I would say that they're, what's the word I'm looking for? Antagonism. Were more of a loss than a win. And as much as Stevie insists that they all got over it,
We did get over it.
there's still a sort of magical, if slightly sinister, chemistry between them 20 years later. And that's it from me, and for Fleetwood Mac, for now. Next week we're going to be embarking on a journey to create the best possible 1971 hypothetical Beatles reunion album. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this episode or you would like to support any of the weird things that I do, including but not limited to making puppets, this is what I'm working on this week. We don't have feet or hands yet, but we do have moving parts. Yeah, anyway, that's one of the weird things that I do. So if you would like to support that or any of the other things, I'll leave a link in the description from my Buy Me a Coffee page, where you are most welcome to make a donation, if it pleases you. No pressure, friends. If you have made a donation or signed up as a member, I am so grateful for you, and I am naming you official sponsors of this week's episode. Yay! Well done, you. Thank you. What's the other thing I usually say? If you're curious about what any of my original music sounds like, I'll leave a link in the description for that as well. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend! Okay. I got a new ring light. I'm lit. The show is lit, as the youth say. I wonder how loud that is. I can check. I can't hear a thing because the music's playing in the background. Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood. It's not his full name. It's Mick Fleetwood. It's gotten dark outside, but it is still light in here because I have lighting. Like a big fancy YouTube channel. Because it's such a good song. It's distracting me. And it was concocted. Whoops, sorry. Oops, sorry again. So if you take Lindsay's riff, Stevie's lyrics, and Christine's chords, and John and, what's his name, Mick. Boy, it's hot. It's really friggin' hot. Caught it. Almost dropped the F-bomb. Chose not to. Like an adult. Although somebody last week got really upset at me because I had censored the swears. They said if I was trying to be edgy, it would be better if I didn't swear at all. Because saying the swear and censoring the swear was actually just pseudo-edge. And a friend pointed out to me, rightly, that pseudo-edge is a great name for a band. So if you want that, it's yours. I'll leave the link in the